I'm Marcela Ovando-Tellez, and this is my work on brain connectivity-based prediction of combining remote semantic associates for creative thinking. So what is creativity? Creativity can be defined as the ability to form new combinations by associating remote elements. Based on the associative theory of creativity, creative abilities partially depend on the organization of the semantic associations in memory. So based on this theory, more creative people are able to link distant concepts easily compared to less creative people. For instance, for three keywords that seems to be unassociated, for instance, liberty, artwork, and motionless, more creative people are able to come up with four words that link these three words together easily compared to the less creative people. For instance, in this example, the solution will be status. And the more remote are the elements in memory, the more creative is the process of combining them. But what are the brain correlates of creative abilities? Several research in neuroscience of creativity has shown the role of the default network in interaction with executive control network supporting creative abilities. The default network supports more associative mechanisms that are important for creative abilities, and the executive control network supports more control processes that interact with these associative processes during the generation of creative ideas. So the interaction between the default network and the executive control network is also in interaction with the salience network. How the process of making connections between associates is reflected at the brain level, and how it depends on varying the associative remoteness between the concepts remains to be better understood. So in this project, we aimed to explore the neural mechanisms allowing to connect and combine distant associates during creativity tasks. To this aim, participants performed a combination of associate tasks. In this task, they were presented with three keywords. And they were asked to find a fourth word that connects these three words together. So the advantage of using this task is that there are two different types of trials. The closed trials, in which the three keywords that are presented have a close relationship with the expected response. And the distant trials, in which the three keywords have a higher associative remoteness with the expected response. So the distant trials are more difficult for the participants to resolve. So the participants were given 30 seconds to solve each of the trials, and they were asked to type the response, and we also asked them to report if they solved the different trials by the feeling of the eureka or insight. So then we were able to compute the different scores of these tasks, such as the level of accuracy and reaction times, and also we ran some logistic regressions in order to compute the ability of the participants to solve the overall task, and also the ability of solving the different trials when varying the associative remoteness between the keywords and the expected response. Here in the y-axis we have the probability of solving the CAT trials, and in the x-axis we have the variation of the associative remoteness in the different trials. So we can see here the plot of four different participants. Two of them has a higher ability of solving the CAT trials, and also they perform better if we increase the associative remoteness between the keywords and the expected response. And in here we can see other two participants with a lower ability of solving the CAT trials.
Overall, we have different CAT measures that represent the CAT performance of the participants, the level of accuracy, but also the ability for solving all CAT trials and for solving CAT trials when increasing the associative remoteness between the keywords and the response. If according to the associative theory of creativity, more creative people combine remote associates, can we find correlate of this ability at the brain level? in particular in the classical creativity networks that have been described in previous studies?
We explore the brain correlates by using a connectome-based predictive modeling. So this approach attempts to answer the question if cat performance can be predicted from the individual's pattern of brain functional connectivity. So participants underwent an fMRI session, and it allowed us to build their functional connectivity networks, or that were also represented as functional connectivity matrices. By using a leave-one-out cross-validation, we selected the important features in these matrices, that is, the different brain edges that correlated significantly, either positively or negatively, to the different cat measures. And we fit a predictive model in the total number of subjects -1. So then we test this model in the left-out subject in order to predict his cat score. As a result of this work, at the behavioral level, we can observe that participants performed better in the closed trials compared to the distant trials. We can observe a higher accuracy and also lower reaction times in the closed trial compared to the distant trials,
which validate our hypothesis.
Then, at the brain level, we observed that the different measures of the cat task were predicted from the individual's pattern of brain functional connectivity.
Here we can see 6 different results from independent connectome-based predictive modeling analysis. We perform this analysis for each of the cat measures, as you can see here, and we observe in the y-axis the predicted values from the brain patterns of functional connectivity, and in the x-axis the real values of the participants. These significant correlations represent the significant predictions of these values from the brain patterns of functional connectivity.
Finally, we wanted to characterize which are the brain networks that support this prediction of higher creative abilities during the cat performance.
The brain connectivity patterns of the predictive network of better creative abilities for solving all cat trials had a whole brain distribution. We observed that the brain regions with the highest number of connections in this network were localized in brain regions that belong to the default network, the somatomotor, and the dorsal attention network. The predictive network of better abilities for solving the trials of the task with a higher associative remoteness between the keywords at the response also had a whole brain distribution. The brain nodes with the highest number of connections were localized in brain regions that belong to the somatomotor networks, dorsal attention, default network, and also executive control networks.
Overall, we can observe that the default network is critical for solving all cat trials, while the interaction with executive control network and dorsal attention is more critical for more difficult trials. So, in conclusion of this work, there is a whole brain functional connectivity patterns that predict performance in cats. So it means that the ability of performing in this type of task is represented at the brain level in the individual's pattern of brain functional connectivity. So then these predictive patterns involving the default mode network was observed in the ability of performing all type of trials. So possible, it supports the associative processes that are important to solve the different trials in this task. But contrary, the brain connections that showing the interaction between more control networks, such as executive control network and dorsal attention in interaction with the default mode network, supported more difficult trials. So it can reflect the role of these interactions in the control processes that are required in the more difficult trials. And finally, this predictive pattern of the cat sensitivity. So a better ability of solving the trials when we vary this associative remoteness of the trials is similar to the one that predicts also other kind of creative abilities such as divergent thinking, suggesting that these can be neural mechanisms involved in creativity processes. I would like to thank my collaborators and my supervisor, and also thank you for your attention.